The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to the Sports Renegades here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
This is our last segment of the show, and we're going to sort of talk about the Blackhawks and some other miscellaneous stuff that we can think of as well that we may have missed, or other things that we wanted to bring up and we didn't. We'll start with the Hawks, though. Hawks are rolling. They had a nice overtime win a few games ago, so that was exciting. And they play at the Washington Capitals tomorrow night, so that'll be exciting, too. That'll be a good matchup. And the Hawks are doing everything right so far right now.
Yeah, they're on a roll. They beat Detroit in overtime. Duncan Keith scored his second goal of the season. Crawford's been playing pretty well. I mean, the defense and the goaltending has been great. Right now, it's just kind of more about getting Jonathan Toews going. Yeah,
it'll be more about trying to get him to score more. I know he's said he's wanted to score more, and that would be nice. Did you hear he was talking about his All-Star selection? He thought some of the other guys on his team should have got it over him.
I mean, Toews has had a subpar season, and he has not denied that. He said he's not deserving, and Artemi Panarin is one of the top scorers in the league, and he didn't make it.
Right. It's just sort of a popularity contest.
No. I mean, the fans only get to choose the captains. The NHL picks the rest of them. Or I don't know how the rest are picked, except he
it's not picked by fans.
Artemi Panarin should have been in, and I mean, I don't know if it's just kind of like it's more of a what have you done in the past rather than this season type thing.
I guess, yeah. Well, I think they just wanted to find a way to get Toews there. He's one of the most popular players in the league, and I think people want to see him, in the All-Star game. So maybe that sort of had to do with it. But yeah, he said, a lot of players on his team were more deserving of him, which, I mean, he's right. But, I mean, no one can deny that Toews is a big figure in the NHL as well.
Absolutely. And, I mean, once he gets going, though, their offense is going to be that much better because Hoss is doing very well. Richard Panik has been a nice addition on that line.
Yeah, so they've got a lot of things going for them. But by the way, I didn't talk about this. With the NBA voting, because, it's all stupidly voted by the fans.
Last time I checked, Zaza Pachulia was the second leading vote getter.
Yeah, isn't that ridiculous? I retweeted something. Here we go. It was from Cody Westerland, who works for The Score. He says, here are the second returns in All-Star voting for the Eastern Conference. Jimmy Butler is fifth in the front court. Wade is second among guards. Can you believe that? Wade is second among guards. Certainly hasn't played like it, but I guess he's still popular. And this is for the Eastern Conference. So he's second among guards. Can you think of the number one? Who's ahead of him in voting for
who do I think is number one?
Yeah,
Steph Curry.
This is just Eastern Conference.
Oh, Eastern Conference guards. I'll go with Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, Kyrie Irving's number one as a vote getter, and he's way ahead of the rest of them. He's got almost 100,000.
Remember when Derrick Rose was getting like a ton of
I'm sorry, he almost got it. He almost has 1 million, not 100,000.
Remember, though, when Derrick Rose was like getting a ton of All-Star votes the year he tore his ACL and didn't even play?
Yep. I do remember that. That was crazy. Okay, here's your leaders so far. Front court, pretty obvious. LeBron James has over 1 million votes at number one. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, is at number two, so that's pretty well deserving. He's got almost 1 million. Kevin Love is 3. Joel Embiid is 4. Jimmy Butler is 5th. Carmelo Anthony is 6th. Kristaps Porzingis is 7th. Paul George is 8th. Jabari Parker is 9th. And Tristan Thompson has made his way into the top 10. So that's for the front court. So that's for the top vote getters.
As you said, it's a popularity contest.
Yeah, for sure. And then the guards, Kyrie Irving, number one, almost at 1 million. Dwayne Wade at 2. He's got about 500,000 votes. DeMar DeRozan is 3rd. Crazy how DeMar DeRozan, how Wade is in front of him. Isaiah Thomas is 4th. That's well deserved. Even though this is all like voting, like he deserves to be there. Isaiah Thomas is playing out of his mind.
He's the
year.
kind of guy that is, kind of really taking his game to the next level this year. Seemed like DeMar DeRozan. Honestly, DeMar DeRozan should be the top leading vote getter for guards in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I mean either him or Kyrie, who's up there. Kyle Lowry is 5th. Derrick Rose is 6th. He's still got his Chicago fanboys voting for him. John Wall is 7th. Jeremy Lin is 8th. I don't understand that. Kemba Walker is 9th, and Avery Bradley is in the top 10 at 10. So that's interesting. So other than that, people aren't really voting for anything. But I say I'm happy for Milwaukee. They got Parker, and then the Greek Freak is 2nd. He's really becoming a star in the NBA quickly. Everyone around the country is starting to take notice in the Greek Freak.
Yeah, I mean, really, he's been on display, particularly against the non-athletic Bulls, where Milwaukee's not the best team.
Milwaukee's 3-0 against the Bulls.
Except they match up really well against the Bulls, and I know they've killed them in at least 2 of those games.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bulls are just not an athletic team, and that just comes down to the roster that was put together by Gar Forman and John Paxson.
I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous. We want to get younger. And then they proceed to get older.
And more athletic, which then they get
less
older.
Athletic. Older and less athletic, because that's what they said. Wait, no, it's not.
As I've said so many times, Gartz so many times contradicts himself. Like, remember the trade deadline last year? He just couldn't trade Pau Gasol because he wanted to get the 8th seed and then get swept by Cleveland in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he considered the 36-year-old Pau Gasol as a key piece of the core going forward.
I really was happy.
Not, Gar.
I really was happy that they didn't make the playoffs. It was a blessing that they didn't make the playoffs last year, because that just would have set us up for more embarrassment.
Probably, they probably would have thought the team was on the rise after getting swept by Cleveland in the first round.
Yeah, they would have had a 7th or 8th seed, which means they would have been playing Cleveland or Toronto, I think was the 2nd seed last year. So they would have been playing those teams. And, I mean, you're not going to win against those teams.
Right, and then remember when they had to dismantle the bench mob, Gar Forman said, we're going to make basketball decisions, not financial ones. So then he gets rid of the entire bench mob and signs a bunch of cheap guys.
Yeah. It's just everything he's done hasn't made any sense.
He thinks that Bulls fans are dumber than they are, or he thinks they have like no intelligence or something. Because who goes and says things like he does, and then he goes and does the opposite? And does he just think people aren't going to notice?
Or people aren't going to pay as much attention to it? I don't know. Let's not forget, we talked about this last week. Gar Forman was scouting for the Bulls right after the Michael Jordan era. Think about the players he scouted and wanted the Bulls to draft in 99, 2000, 2001, 2, 3. I mean, think about how bad those Bulls teams were.
Tyrese Thomas,
think about that.
Tyson Chandler.
I mean, there's
James
a couple
Johnson.
Stars in there. You got
a
couple good players.
Joakim Noah.
Well,
because Gar was already he wasn't.
Well, he wasn't scouting.
Then.
He was scouting for like 5 or 6 years, something like that.
Yeah, except even when he was like in his role, in charge, he probably involved with the drafting of Joakim Noah, Luol Deng, Taj Gibson.
Oh yeah.
Except that the Taj Gibson, yes, that was a great pick at number like 28 in the first round. What about your number 16 pick that you used on James Johnson? What an awful pick that was.
Right.
You could have gotten a good player with that pick if you're getting Taj Gibson 28th.
And even drafting Tyrese Thomas to begin with, that's pretty awful. Or
trading 5 draft picks to get Doug McDermott.
Yeah, that's
5
a little
draft picks.
At the time, I liked it because I was all up on Doug McDermott, but I've fallen down a little bit with him. I mean, I want him to be so good. But he's
the kind of
not.
guy you really want to be really good, except in reality, he's probably just going to be a 3-point specialist coming off the bench and can make some spot starts here and there. He has shown some improvement, though, with his driving to the hoop. He has been shown more ball control and confidence to drive to the hoop and make plenty of layups.
Yeah,
except he's just not shooting what he needs to from beyond the 3-point line this year. Last year he shot 42.5% from downtown. This year he's under 35%. That's just not good enough.
No, it's not.
Especially for a guy that you traded 5 draft picks to take.
Right. Real quick before we get out of here, I wanted to mention for college basketball, the Big East Conference now is no doubt in my mind at least the second best conference in college basketball. The ACC is still probably tops. But the Big East is definitely second. You have 4 teams in the top 18 from the Big East. You have Villanova and Creighton. Villanova's 3, Creighton's 8. And Butler is 12, and Xavier is 18.
Now, since you're a big
That's crazy.
You're a big fan of the Big East. You're a big DePaul fan. When was the last time, if ever, that the conference you think was this good?
Well, the conference in the past was good.
I mean, do you think it's had this much depth in terms of how many really
they've
good
never
teams
had this
there
many ranked teams quite as high as this. But it rivals the way that the league was when it was constructed with DePaul and Marquette and stuff in 2005.
When DePaul was still winning games?
When they were somewhat competitive, when they had Notre Dame and Syracuse and Pittsburgh in there and UConn in there and all those other teams. But I mean, the Big East, a lot of people thought after those teams left and it was just a 10 power Catholic conference, that it would definitely not be, top 2, top 3 in college basketball, and it certainly has become that, especially this year. Let's not forget Nova won the title last year.
Yeah, would you say the ACC is the top one then?
Yeah, ACC's tops still probably, just because Duke and North Carolina and Florida State is really good now. They're number 9.
I don't know. Duke's coach is sidelined for quite a bit of time. The last time Coach K missed an extended period of time, do you know what happened?
Yeah, they were really bad. I think that was like 94, 95.
That was the last time they missed the tournament.
Right. I mean, that's not going to be the case this year.
Yeah, they're not going to miss the tournament. Although, then you see Grayson Allen, though he shoved a coach on the sideline.
Yeah, he's a tool. I'm so sick of him.
See, the thing is, if that was any other player, you'd probably give him the benefit of the doubt that it was an accident or he's trying to brace himself, except because it was Grayson Allen. Honestly, you've just assumed that it was intentional.
Right.
And it probably was. That guy has no business playing college basketball right now.
I know. I'm sick of him. Also, before we get up out of here, the bottom of the conference in the Big East is what's really been surprising. It's been kind of competitive. DePaul nearly beat Villanova in the Big East opener. Providence, DePaul has a win over Providence. Marquette has got a overtime win over Seton Hall. I mean, the bottom of the conference is really competitive, too. So you got 10 teams in that conference that are all not dead yet, including DePaul, which is amazing.
And yet DePaul found a way to lose to UIC.
Yeah, DePaul lost to UIC. They play at Marquette Saturday at 1. It's a winnable game. Marquette's coming off of a big win, though. But we'll see. DePaul's 1-3 in the conference. Not buried yet. So
They could have been 2-2 if they would have found a way to beat Villanova.
That would have been crazy.
That was at Villanova, right?
It was at Villanova. They play Villanova comes to All-State, I think, February 11th or 13th.
You kind of have to think that if that game was at All-State, DePaul would have won.
Maybe that hometown magic would have helped all 2,000 fans of the game. Okay, that's going to do it for Sports Renegades on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
We'll talk to you next week. Have a good night. The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.